So today our reading is based off the King of Swords and the Strength card. Along with those, we also have the Knight of Swords and the Six of Swords. And then the Snail, the Six of Pentacles, and the Seven card. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. We also have a Zero, an Ace of Cups, and Justice. And then over here, the Seven of Swords and the Hermit, along with the Page of Cups. So let's look at it all together now, shall we? So with the King of Swords and the Strength card, I was getting that you're taking a more holistic viewpoint of things, like you're mastering this holistic viewpoint. And this seemed really specific, to be honest. And so if the specifics that I'm saying doesn't fit, just kind of take it as an example instead of a specific situation. But what I was kind of seeing was with the Knight of Swords and the Six of Swords, it's kind of like you're returning to a kind of a viewpoint that you had before. But you're taking what you've learned and from the viewpoint that you currently have and kind of joining the two together, if that makes sense. The specific part is that like I'm getting like you used to have a viewpoint that was more sympathetic or compassionate or quote unquote soft, I guess, as some might say. And you have learned now, I kind of feel more like you were almost forced to take on a different type of viewpoint, situationally. Maybe it's because of the type of job that you were in or the environment you're in general, whether that be a living space, a learning space, or, like I said, a workspace, or maybe just with certain relationships in your life, you learn to be a bit more logical or practical, or maybe just more harsh than with other people than you would have preferred to be. It's kind of what I'm hearing or seeing here, I guess. That, like I said, it's very, very specific. So if it doesn't apply, it doesn't apply. But it's kind of like you used to be much more sympathetic, and it was kind of forced upon. Sorry, my thinking's cutting out. But it was kind of forced upon you to change that worldview a little bit and act a little differently. And you kind of took on a different viewpoint. And now, instead of, you're kind of tired of it. You're like, I don't want to be like this. It was not what I wanted to be in the first place. But you also understand kind of the necessity and the time and place of being like that. But you're kind of trying to return back to the way you were, where you want to integrate both that sympathetic and compassionate side, that softer side, with the more logical side of yourself, and kind of join them together. And like I said, have a more like holistic view of things. And that Knight of Swords kind of is like being very determined to like go back, like no matter what the cost kind of thing is. It's like, no, I'm going to be myself, and myself is going to be both sides of this, and a mixture. And that Zero card, it kind of talks about doing something that's pretty risky and is gonna destroy a lot of things. It's gonna kind of like take down a lot of quote unquote systems, I guess you could say, within your life, or maybe relationships, or, if you're wanting to be like this, then you were kind of forced to become really harsh or logical because of, like, say, a workplace. Maybe you're like, well, I guess I'm just going to have to try to find somewhere else to work then. Like, if these people here are not going to allow me to fully be myself, and I'm just going to get walked all over if I, try to show that empathetic side of me, then maybe I just needed to have a different workplace. So that Zero, that's an example. That Zero is kind of showing up as you being determined to take down whatever you need to take down in your life so that you can fully express this side of yourself, both sides of yourself, if that makes sense, and to integrate all of it. And it's going to look messy from the outside. It's going to look messy. It's going to feel chaotic and unstable because, like, that's what happens when you start changing things in your life. Like, things get really messy. But also, the thing about that mess and that destruction is that you can build something new now. And that's kind of what I'm seeing with this Justice and this Ace of Cups. Like, it is going to be hard. And it's going to just... It's probably to other people on the outside are going to probably be like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you, like, you know, changing? And they might be disturbed. But I feel like with this Ace of Cups, you're actually going to feel more fulfilled. You're going to have kind of a new beginning that brings you closer to have a better emotional alignment within yourself, I guess. You're going to feel more fulfilled with the direction that you're going. And eventually, as you work on that, that's going to take shape. And other people, once they finally see the shape it's taking, that it isn't just chaos and you self-sabotaging, they probably won't realize that that's what you were doing from the beginning. But once they see that you do actually have a direction you're going in, they're gonna be on board. Some of them, at least. They're going to be kind of wowed and amazed that you were able to change yourself in this way. Or at least that's what I think, personally. Obviously, not everyone's going to be willing to recognize that, but there will be people who are like, oh, wow, okay. And then the Justice here, going with that 0 and that Ace of Cups, I feel like that Justice is about that rebalance of energy. It's about you were kind of robbed of that side of yourself while you were in this situation or environment where you had to learn to have kind of a sort of armor or big guard up on your emotional side or your compassionate side or whatever that may be. And that Justice is kind of like balancing the scales back to where you can integrate both sides now, and you can integrate both sides more seamlessly. And you no longer are being like robbed of that. Coming to a place of maybe equilibrium is the right word, because sometimes, especially with this chaos of the 0, as you start to make this change, you might feel like you're swinging from one side to the other, where you're being way over sympathetic or you're being way over harsh. And that Justice is like you're finding that equilibrium of where to not feel like you're going crazy on either extremes, but you're kind of integrating both at the same time. Does that make sense? And so I feel like, let me see. I'm trying to remember what I thought about this snail over here and this 6 of Pentacles. I think some of the advice for this with the snail obviously is about taking things slowly. Surprise, surprise. So it's about taking things slowly, but also just kind of, the snail is not just about taking life slowly, but it's also about, it's about noticing the little things and taking joy in them and finding wonderment again in the small things and the normal things and kind of like falling in love with life again by taking it slowly and noticing those things that you wouldn't have if you weren't taking it slowly. And so I think it's part of that is, that's kind of going to be that stability that you find during this process is, noticing the little things in life and enjoying them as you go. But also I feel like enjoying the process of changing and growing if you are self-aware enough as you do it. And not being too hard on yourself about it. I feel like we also have this 6 of Pentacles and this 7 card. And the 7 card is about clarity and mystery, which sounds kind of contradictory, but it's not. It's, again, kind of about that whole wonderment thing going on. And that 6 of Pentacles, Six of Pentacles is kind of like a lowercase justice card where it's about rebalancing things. But when I pulled it, it felt very playful. And I feel like that rebalancing is a bit of a rebalancing of energy where like you're engaging more in a playful side of yourself, of there's mystery and clarity going on, but also kind of like you don't have to have everything figured out right now, and that's kind of fun. You can figure it out as you go, but I also feel like there's a social aspect going on here with this playfulness and the Six of Pentacles. I'm not entirely sure what, but maybe you know. So we're just gonna go ahead and move on, and we're gonna move on to the Seven of Swords, the Hermit, and the Page of Cups. The Seven of Swords here, the Seven of Swords, generally speaking, people, and this is not an invalid interpretation, but people usually interpret the Seven of Swords as like some type of deception going on, or lies, or something being stolen or whatever. I don't feel that here. The Seven of Swords, again, is very fucking playful. Like, if you were able to take a good look at the card, it's very playful card. I see the Seven of Swords in general, but specifically the Seven of Swords as having like Hermes. So I feel like the Seven of Swords, it could be you kind of challenging. I feel like the Seven of Swords is you kind of challenging that status quo that you are in, and kind of very playfully being like, oh yeah, well, let's just change that. Let's just do this differently. What if I did it this way instead? The Seven of Swords is kind of almost like doing something that might not necessarily be quote unquote the right thing to do, or it might not necessarily be, you're kind of like breaking the rules to prove a point type of thing, whether it's the rules are broken, or maybe it's not like a rule, but it's like, you know, a societal norm type of thing, and kind of challenging that to prove a point. I'm not saying that, I know, that's just kind of the Seven of Swords energy to me. And that's kind of what I'm feeling here. So maybe a part of that whole, you're breaking out of this certain mold and trying to integrate multiple sides of yourself, and that chaos that comes because you're like, well, we're going to do things my way, and I don't like this in my life, so I'm going to change it. And I don't like this in my life, so I'm going to change it. That might be show up to other people as you kind of challenging certain norms or certain rules that they think are really important. And you're just like, actually, no. And so you're just kind of being a little mischievous Seven of Swords over here. And that might be what they see on the outside, but on the inside, you're kind of embodying more of this hermit energy with the Page of Cups, where you're kind of like going inward and figuring out like what makes you feel most fulfilled, what gives you happiness. And instead of focusing so much on what other people are thinking of you, what other people are, how they're viewing you, and you know, chaos that's going on around and all of that, just kind of hone in on your inner self and say, okay, what makes me fulfilled, what gives me happiness, and how can I kind of attain that and embody that in a way that is both safe and practical, but fun and compassionate, and in all of the ways that I want it to be. That's kind of your basis of like, that's your home base of where that's like your goals there, and kind of your home base to like dig into and not let anyone distract you from that. Like, whenever you're feeling down, or I don't know, like this is really hard, or like people are kind of, the way people are looking at you and acting like you're crazy, and you kind of like, don't let that get to you. Instead, focus on that inner journey of finding out what feels right to you and how to properly like express that into the world. That can be really hard. But I feel like there's a lot of good advice of like, you know, focus on your inner journey. Also, when it comes to the outside world, enjoy the little things. Be playful with those things and have fun with this. You get like the zero card, it looks dangerous, it looks kind of dark, and from the outside a lot of people are probably going to see it that way, but there's like a lot of good things that you are trying to come out of that with. Like sorry words. I feel like you're going to turn this into something really cool and really awesome and beautiful for yourself. And then other people are going to realize that that's beautiful, and they're going to, once you get to that point, they're going to recognize that this is something beautiful that you have done. And it's going to take time to get there, but you just focus on you and your journey of getting there and have fun with it. I think that's what that is. Anyways, yeah, I think that's all. Have a good time.